Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Showboys podcast, the House of the Dragon companion series. You have Nick and Chad here with you to guide you through episode 1 of what I'd have to say is a really good show so far. It has not let me down in the 1 hour and 4 minutes of screen time it gave me. So that was awesome. Before we get too far, theme song, shout out to Dad the Cap of the Discord, of the Showboys staff, and a growing member of just doing many, many things here. We really appreciate you. And there's a link to his SoundCloud in the description. But yeah, Chad, we're here. Episode 1. We got to watch it. The 9 o'clock premiere on Game of Thrones or on HBO Max. Like just seeing it throughout the day was just so exciting because it's really been since 2019 when Game of Thrones did that. So this is really like, I know other people have done it with like all the other, like I know Westworld was like that, but I need to go back and watch Westworld, but this is really brought that back for me.
Yeah, I tried to get into Westworld. I need to get back to it too, but honestly, I haven't watched a show like this live since Game of Thrones. So it was super cool to come back, and it just happens to be in Westeros that I return for the weekly episodes. I loved it, dude. I'm gonna be honest with you. I loved what they set up. Just as a baseline, I think there's a lot to talk about, and I like the direction that we're already heading. What do you think?
Yeah, I loved it. There is way more strings to Game of Thrones than I expected there to be. Not that there needed to be, but it's a lot of cool parallels and just like even the cool foreshadowing that we got toward the end. Your favorite thing of all time. So really excited to talk about that. But like I was messaging you, the only thing that I was missing here that maybe they'll do in episode 2, and after I watched the creators talk at the end, they did talk about the intro and how they wanted something really to kind of set it up to come in strong. So we don't have the classic Game of Thrones intro credit world spinning, but we have this narration, right, that reminds me of like the opening to Lord of the Rings movies.
It's that, dude. It's so hilarious that you say that, because I thought the exact same thing. Even the voice is similar too. You know what I mean?
Isn't a female voice, so it sounds just like what's her name's from Lord of the Rings, just narrating this period of I think it was like the grandfather or the much older one.
Yeah, it's the Great Council of 101, and this is where, and we're gonna fumble through these names as we get them down, because Targaryen names are just a little much sometimes. But yeah, Jaehaerys, is that how you say it?
Yep. Until I learn how to say, like, spell and say them, I'm just gonna spell them phonetically. How I can like say them. So Jaehaerys is how I spelled it here.
Right. Yeah, so it's the council, and I really, really, really like this because it draws a parallel later on in the episode. But it's the council that he set up to, I guess it's a vote. It is what it looked like, voting in the next heir to the throne, and it was between Varys, who is the king at the beginning of the show, or Rain. I can't remember her name, the older lady, Rhaenyra, maybe? No,
it's not Rhaenyra. That's our young princess. It's like Rhaenys. Rhaenys, and then Viserys here, Viserys, and her cousin.
Right,
and she is daughter of the king, Jaehaerys. So cool dynamic there.
And they point out, first off, I love we're in Harrenhal during this council, which is
beat up.
It looks real beat up. Yeah, I don't know that we've ever seen this portion of it in the.
This like the Great Hall too.
Yeah, this is like the Great Hall,
where the throne room kind of would have been, which is really cool. I was like, wow, man, Harrenhal just doesn't get old.
Right, it looks so good, man.
And even 172 years before Game of Thrones, it's burnt, melted, and destroyed. But it's a little bit more functional, it seems like. It's not just like a war camp.
Yeah, and I think that it was like a place, because I believe that the tourney where Rhaegar, right after that tournament, he kidnapped Lyanna Stark. I think that was at Harrenhal. It could be wrong, but it's still like a functional place. It's just a ruin, essentially. You know what I mean? But they still hold tournaments and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, and Harrenhal geographically is pretty central to the realm, so it's a really good place for everyone to
Meet up.
join.
Yeah.
Instead of
Yeah.
making everyone do the King's Road all the way down to King's Landing.
Right.
So Harrenhal seems like a nice neutral. It's by the lake. It's kind of destroyed, so no one's really like using it. So good place to have big events.
Yeah.
It's a party hall.
Yeah. So I definitely like seeing this opening because it does feel that's what I like, I think, the most about this show so far is that even though it's taking place in Westeros, it feels very different. I don't
Oh
want to
yeah.
say radically different, but it feels very, very different. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. They could have easily came with this story and tried to mimic everything that Game of Thrones did. And it does not look like they're doing that, which is, I think, personally a good thing.
I don't know if I'm just projecting like my knowledge of the time period it's set in, but they definitely honed in on this is a different Westeros. This is
peacetime Westeros.
Peacetime Westeros. Things are much more put together. Things aren't, I don't want to say like darker, but like things are just a little tighter. Like everything looks aesthetically like very clean, very sharp, right? Almost
Yeah.
like 60 FPS versus like Game of Thrones was
Right.
30. It's kind of like it feels very immersive for sure.
Yeah, I agree. So I do really like this opening, and I do think that we're going to get an intro. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the intro was what we saw at the end of this, which was just the Targaryen sigil come up with a 20-second song to play or whatever. Not even that long. It was quick.
Well, when I watched the creators at the end of the episode kind of talk about that really briefly, there maybe it almost sounded like they made an exception here to get this really going, right? To really kind of kick it into gear.
Yeah, that would be my guess for sure.
Yeah, and they had a lot to kind of cover here, and it was pretty nice how much they did cover in this episode. Yet it's only like the very, very beginning of all the drama that's about to unfold.
Right. Very tip of it. But I think it's important to show this council meeting because they're electing the next heir, which is very important that everyone's involved in picking the next heir. And they also make a point to show that Viserys gets this vote, not the woman. And they make a play that it's because she's a woman and a woman has never inherited never sat on the Iron Throne at this point. So that I thought was really cool when we get later into the episode and we see what happens later. I was like, that's a cool parallel between this opening scene, what they did there, and this here. And I think the quote that kind of drove it home for me was during the narration, they said that the council was initiated to prevent a war over the succession for Jaehaerys. Because he knew that, quote, the only thing that could tear down the House of the Dragon is itself. And that's how it rolls down. I was like, dude, I'm already sold in the first 30 seconds.
Well, that's good. And then I even liked we got a little bit of just extra text here at the end. And I like how the text kind of like fades away and you just really get the gist of it. Like this is 172 years before Daenerys Targaryen.
Yeah, that was super cool.
So that was fun. Like first the Texas shows there, but for some reason, like when they dropped away all the words and it was just like the very two important things here. That's just so important. Because even during the episode, my wife asked, she's like, "Is that the girl from Game of Thrones?" I'm like, "No."
She looks very close. Same family. Yeah. She's definitely got that Daenerys vibe to her for sure, which I'm sure they did on purpose. Obviously,
they're family. She's technically like a great aunt, grandmother, whatever, right? So like, we emulate other people in our family, so it only makes sense. But after the second watch, I really like Rhaenyra's here, or Rhaenyra. I really like her character, and I'm really excited actually to see older her, because I watched the character spotlight for her on HBO, and it's really cool that they both get to play the same character. They look very alike. I'm really excited to see just the actors kind of like nail that down.
Yeah, and I'm curious, do you think... I mean, I think I have an assumption of how they're going to do it. Do you think this is going to be like a mid-season thing? They're going to switch to the next timeline, or is it going to be bouncing between the two? Because we didn't see any of that timeline in this episode, so it kind of gave me it got me thinking, and I think that it's going to be like halfway, like episode 5, they're going to switch over to.
Well, on the whole, like, and that was the weird thing about the like teaser for the next episode that I saw after this, after it ended. It didn't say on the next episode. It said in the coming weeks. So they almost gave like a teaser for like the next 4 episodes.
A couple episodes, yeah.
And nothing in that really kind of gave me the idea that they weren't going to get right to it in the next episode. So I almost feel like this is the, you know, the prelude to all that. So they did this very focused, like 2 days, right? 2-3 days in King's Landing here, to really kind of just set the stage, because this was what drove it all home. So I think now we're gonna get a lot of jumping around, and I wonder if they're going to jump back to before this happened, or if like the younger versions of them is all going to be post this episode, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I thought, I was under the assumption, or at least in my mind, I thought that we were going to be bouncing around throughout the entire seat, like back and forth. But yeah, after, and it could just be this was the first episode. They wanted to lay out the characters. They didn't want to overly complicate it with different actors playing the same characters in different timelines. So it's, even if they're going to start bouncing around, it's smart to take this first episode and just do the younger versions of the characters, just so we can get
don't confuse
names
people
down. Yeah, there's a lot going on here, so we don't need the confusion. But yeah, I don't know. Something's still just telling me that it's going to be like a mid-season thing, and they're going to cut away.
Yeah. Well, I mean, right after that text, we get a nice panning shot of the clouds, so we all know it's going to happen next. And very on brand, we get a dragon.
Yes,
a golden dragon, and it's Rhaenyra, and she's riding her dragon Syrax, which is a really cool name.
Such a cool name, yeah, I love it.
And we instantly get a nice variation of dragon. Like, this dragon's a little bit more compact than like Drogon or any of the other ones from Game of Thrones, and has a very cool build. And the wings are a little bit more batty. It has this like more bat texture to it. So very cool. And flying through the clouds, we get this, obviously comes up on King's Landing. We get to see, and even this overshot of King's Landing, like, it just looks more grandiose than Game of Thrones King's Landing.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
The Red Keep, I swear, is more red. Like, everything has like, everything's just like an HD.
Yeah, it's like they have like
cleaning crews.
Yeah, because we're in peacetime here, so the soldiers need something to do while they're not fighting. But yeah, I don't know. It's got like a what HDR vibe to it. That's what it gives me. Like, if you play a video game without HDR and then put HDR on, that difference in colors, that's the vibes that we get here. But yeah, I love the fly over the city towards the Red Keep. I love seeing the dragon pit finally in all its glory before it becomes a ruin, as it is in the original series.
So the giant dome temple building that looks like a mosque, that's the dragon pit. Like,
that's the dragon pit. Yeah,
up on the hill, full form. It's way bigger than like whatever it was made out to be in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I agree 100%. We said that. I was like, even in that meeting and the final season or 7th season there, it's like, how do they fit dragons into this thing? Like, maybe it's just that's like one small room of it or something. It
has literally all that's left. Like, it's barely like it has any height to it. Like, this building is sweet, and it's just like the dragon stable temple, whatever you want to call it.
And I do have to point, you see it a little bit better later in the episode, but I do have to point out that her dragon has a saddle, which I think is a needed thing that Daenerys, for whatever reason, just ignored throughout the entirety of the show. So if you look at them, they're really cool too, but it's like an obvious thing. Like, of course they have to have a saddle on this. If you put a saddle on a horse, you got to put a saddle on a dragon that you're flying around in the,
Not that Daenerys is done, but it's way easier.
Right.
And that's something I started thinking about too, because between that and like the dragon smell, like they were ugh, like, you smell like dragon. Once again, like, saddle on the dragon being put out by the smell that the dragon leaves on you, very much peacetime type problems, right? Whereas it makes sense that these things were never brought up in Game of Thrones, because they didn't really have the luxury of being like, let's craft a saddle. Obviously, they could
Right.
have, or no one was like, geez, Danny, you stink like dragon. Like,
Yeah, or they didn't even like it's been hundreds of years since the dragons died at that point. Yeah,
yeah,
probably presumably 170 something years since they died. So maybe nobody knows what the dragon smells. They just think this bitch is just super stinky. You know what I mean?
But you keep saying about like the peacetime they're in, and in that opening sequence, basically King Jaehaerys like ruled for 60 years of peace, right?
Yeah.
Which is a pretty long time, I would
Oh
say,
yeah.
for having peace, even by our standards in our world.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then we have another 10 years here that later gets bled in, where Viserys has ruled for 10 years of presumably peace, more or less. So it's very much throughout the episode driven home that like this is a peacetime
Yes.
nation.
Yes. Very much so. Especially with all the peaceful like scenes that we're seeing between everybody. You know what I mean? Like they're all chilling. Like nobody outside of like the tourney later on in the episode. Like we see Rhaenyra and Alicent, I think her name is,
Mhm.
just hanging by the weirwood. First off, didn't even know there was a weirwood in King's
Yeah,
Landing.
right.
Did you know that? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
didn't know
thing
that
got
either.
definitely
So
chopped down.
yeah, it could be. Could
Speaking
be.
of peace, peace, love, Ames. Hi, peace. Love,
Hello.
Ames. Welcome. What have you missed? You missed the first 10 minutes of the show. We recapped, but we're about to tear into it. We haven't gotten too far, per usual.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining. So yeah, she lands. We get some like dragon handlers, which
Oh,
is
I
cool.
love
Like
yeah, I
you know,
love
they
these
don't got to
guys.
deal with that.
Right.
Get some dragon handlers, and this is like this. And then when she's riding in the carriage back to the Red Keep, this is cool in how the dragon stable, right? It like backs up to the ocean front along the cliffside, and then
Yeah.
there's, I think it's like a private royal like dragon pit like road along the cliffside outside of the city,
Yeah.
that kind of like goes up to the back of the dragon temple, kind of like the back entrance to Jabba's palace.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
Star
it's a good
Wars.
yeah, it's a good parallel. Yeah, I thought it was I just want to see more of the Dragon Pit, man. Like I'm sure we're going to get a lot of it through this season. I know we're going to get a lot of it through this show at least. So, I'm just excited to get in there and see what's going on. But I do like the ride from the Dragon Pit to the Red Keep because you see
Mhm.
how different the city is. Like it does look a hell of a lot cleaner, eh? The city, the King's Landing that we're seeing here. There's tons of dragon stuff peppered throughout, which I think is a really cool touch. Obviously, the Targaryens have the throne now, so they're gonna have dragon statues and banners and everything all over. But I I like this scene primarily because we're seeing what I think are going to be two very important characters in Rhaenyra and Alicent, who is her
Mhm.
friend. And I don't know if they probably say in the book, but I assume they're like in their teens, right? 16 maybe, 17. I mean, they're
Yeah.
young.
No, I would say they're in their teens just because medieval times, like, they're basically, you're married off easily into your late teens, if not early. So
Right.
they're definitely, yeah, I would say like mid to late teens
Yeah.
in this setting.
And you can tell that they're like best friends as well. Multiple times throughout the show, we see them.
Daughter of Hand of the King and
Right.
the
Daughter
princess,
of the
for
king. Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Peace, love, Ames. Are we free for spoilers? All spoilers go here. Like that's all we're
Yes.
doing is we're spoiling
All
it
we're doing.
moment
Spoil
by
it away.
moment. So let's do it. But yeah, I agree. Like we even saw that in the trailer. It's just more of this like very polished King's Landing, which is all good. And speaking of polish, they show us kind of going through the Red Keep. And it's kind of like Hogwarts level, like
It
just
is.
hustle and bustle, like
Yeah.
stairs going everywhere, people doing all kinds of stuff as Rhaenyra here makes her way to her mother's chamber.
Yeah. It gave me like Old Town Citadel vibes for whatever reason. I don't know if they're like using the same tech they did to do the Citadel in the original series, but a lot of the panning shots like up the stairwells and stuff looks very similar. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool, man. It's cool to see all this stuff back and how different everything looks, especially stuff we see later in the episode that looks radically different. So do you like Do you think it looks better, the new 3D stage sound, whatever they're doing, the Disney stuff they're doing with the dragons and all that?
I can't really tell. I mean, it definitely looks good.
Yeah.
I think the benefit you get from it is just like the easy 3D panning you can do scene to scene, whereas like Game of Thrones has a much more fixed like camera
Right.
shots, right? Where
Yeah.
you're just kind of looking at this and then you cut and you're looking this way more traditionally. Whereas with the volume, they're able to do much more sweeping like shots and like more dynamic pans of a scene.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
so
dig the new look.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen like any kind of limitations of the volume creeping up. Just because I think the way these sets are, they are very much that the size of the volume. Now, where people have complained about the volume is like with Star Wars being overused, because Star Wars is so big, very
Right.
very just large scenes. It's you can see a little bit of the breakage, like in Obi-Wan when he's like going through the city with Leia. Um, Spoiler, you can see the limitation of it. Like you can almost see like here's like near and present Obi-Wan and what is set on a stage, and then here's everything that's on a screen behind you. So it has
Yeah.
this similar effects to the green screen, obviously much better looking, but
Right.
there's
Yeah, yeah.
limitations.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see if we can pick up on any of that, because I really didn't throughout the show. I think the editing is great here.
In Peace Love Ames, that is the HDR Chad was talking about. So she thought the dragons were too bright. They stood out more than they did in the original show.
Yep.
Yeah,
They
very
definitely.
bold red.
Yeah, we were even talking like even the red. Nick said the Red Keep looks like super red now. So I think it's just I think it's like a HDR vibe going on. Everything's more colorful in this apparently.
Yeah,
But I don't know. I kind of like that because it's like peacetime. Like everything should be colorful and
right.
Extravagant looking. So
Not dull and being down by Robert's rebellion and all the rest that ensues. We get a quick scene with Rhaenyra and her mother. Her mother's pregnant with what the king very, very, very hopes to be a son. And basically a little bit of back and forth where her mother tells her like this is our contribution to the kingdom, to the realm, is to bear children.
I love
that's our field of battle.
Love that quote. Childbed is our battlefield. I think that's cool, especially with the way they play it later on. It's cool to see her. I didn't know that. Honestly, I didn't think we were going to see her at all. I was presuming that she was dead before the show started. So it's cool to see what happened, everything that pans out here. But yeah, I like her. I like her interaction with her mom, and I love that quote. Childbed is our battlefield. Like this is our war that we fight.
And I definitely on the second watch, even on the first watch, I was like, it's very clear. Like we kind of know how this episode plays out because, like you said, like we didn't really expect them to like do all of this for that.
Right. Yep.
But it's important. But then Rhaenyra has basically, this is like the first time we really kind of, it's like the second time in like 5 minutes here where she's just like, that's not really her thing. She would like to, be in battle, ride dragons, and just
major Dany vibes for sure.
Dany vibes, Arya vibes. Like she's not
the lady,
if you will. So that's always cool. The next scene, which I know you're excited about, is we get a small council meeting, which Rhaenyra is late for, as she is the cupbearer for the king.
Yeah.
And I like this because even though like they kind of played up that she's like the neglected child because she's like the daughter, he still has her place as like the cupbearer.
Right.
And like she gets a lot of education from like palace intrigue and like ruling a kingdom by being the cupbearer at the small council meetings.
Yeah.
Like, fly on the wall.
Yeah, because if you
be the cupbearer.
Absolutely, because you even think back to Arya with Tywin back in the original series, she got a ton just being there. So yeah, I love this, dude. This for me, it just feels like old Game of Thrones, like the first couple seasons. Like the palace intrigue thing is very heightened in this episode, and I think it's going to be in the show. And I know that a lot of people think that that's kind of where the show started to trail off when they lost the intrigue and the webs and everything. But yeah, dude, I love some of the characters here. Like I'm already so excited to see where these guys go. We see this the sea snake, Corlys Valerion.
Oh yeah.
I love him already. He's like a no bullshit type of dude. He's married to
the queen that never was.
The queen that never was that we were discussing earlier. We'll get her name eventually. Rain, yeah, something with an R.
Reyes.
Yeah, something like that. He's kind of discussing something going on with the free cities. It goes by very quick. Did you pick up what it was exactly?
I really, really like that they opened this meeting with this. So, he's master of ships. He is like the best admiral. He has the biggest navy, blah, blah, blah. He's basically very similar to Game of Thrones season 1, is alluding to this like potential threat over the Narrow Sea. So the free cities are basically kind of formed like an alliance of sorts. And there is this admiral that kind of tortures people or does weird stuff with crabs and his enemies. And basically he's just gaining a lot of popularity and could be a threat. And his whole deal is like, guys, shipping lanes, stuff, not good. And they're all like, meh. I think
the king even says like, that sounds like good news.
He's like, yeah, we're gonna like weep over some like dead pirates or something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so basically whatever this group is, and they gave him, I can't remember if they gave him a name. I think they did give him a name, but they're like clearing out pirate coves along the coast, and that's the concern is basically what I got. But they did say that they were setting up something on the Stepstones. I know that the Stepstones is an important part of the story. I don't know why yet. Obviously, I haven't read the book, but I have a feeling that we're going to see something at this Stepstones. I don't know where it is exactly. I don't know if it's close to King's Landing. I'm not sure, to be honest, because there are a couple locations I have not heard of in this, and the Stepstones would be one of them.
Did they say Blackstone? Because they say Blackstone later on when Viserys is talking to Vernera about Aegon setting out from there. But I took it as somewhere across the Narrow Sea, but pretty close to.
Oh, did you? Yeah,
to the crossing. Basically, like the narrow point on the Narrow Sea.
I'll look it up, but I think it's Stepstones. Okay. That might be a different location as well.
Yeah, but this might be some of the fighting that we actually get to see, because there is some sort of opposing military threat to the kingdom, and what is otherwise peacetime. So Corlys, that we get a nice little intro to his demeanor. Otto starts to speak. He kind of just shuts him down. It's like, your complaint has been heard, noted. Like, moving on.
Yeah. As he's peeling his egg, he's got not a concern in the world right now because his baby's on the way. So the Stepstones are a chain of islands between the southern Narrow Sea and the northwestern Summer Sea. The islands are east of Dorne in Westeros and west of the disputed lands in Essos. So it looks like it's maybe somewhere in the middle of these islands.
Yeah, creeping over.
Yeah, but it says they're notoriously filled with pirate dens. So basically they're clearing out this. I don't know why exactly. It does seem like it could be an important route through. So that might be the concern that he has. But I like this stuff, man. I like that we're opening. We're talking about stuff that's going on outside. I'm ready.
And then you got the rest of the council just like not caring.
Yeah.
Because quickly the conversation pans to the more pressing matter, and that's Daemon Targaryen, Prince of the City. This guy carries a lot of just energy with him.
Yes.
Even when he's not in the scene, like even when people are talking about him, like this dude is just serious. But a fun, good guy at the same time. He has I don't want to say Jamie, but he's like some weird blend of like Jamie and Tyrion.
Yeah,
like he definitely has the like bad boy, like the main house,
the wild card of the house.
But essentially, Master of Coin is complaining about how much Daemon has spent on overhauling the City Watch, which we later see is basically the introduction of the gold cloaks,
right? Which is what I think we called it out in our episode 0, that we were hoping that we were going to see the kind of introduction of the gold cloaks, the birth here, and boy, is it a brutal introduction to the gold cloaks.
Yeah, they definitely, his little speech there is like, they will learn to fear the color gold tonight. So yeah, they're kind of going on about that, and then but the real important matter here that the king wants to talk about is the tournament, which they're having in the name of his unborn, soon to be born son. And this is cool just because we're setting up for this tournament thing, kind of classic monarchy, big event happening. So let's call everybody in to have a big tournament and celebrate.
Yeah. I love this, man. I was hoping that we were going to see more. I think we're going to see more tourneys outside of this one. So it's the thing to do for these people when there's no war going on. Like you got to let the energy out somewhere. Yeah. So I love that whole setup. I do want to talk about the hand of the king, Otto Hightower, real quick.
Yes.
I love this dude already, man. Like he's giving me Tywin vibes through and through.
He even sounds like Tywin a little bit.
Yeah, dude. and just he's almost like a weird combination of Tywin because of the power and the position, and Littlefinger because of the behind the scenes weaving that he's already doing in this first episode.
He does do a creepy thing like Littlefinger would do.
He does 100%. But yeah, I love this guy. This guy's front runner for me for my favorite character so far.
Dang.
I can't wait to see more of him, to be honest.
Dang. And a little bit more on like Daemon here is just a little bit more tidbits about him. Like he doesn't come to meetings. They never see him.
Yeah,
they don't know if he's
off.
In the Vale. Yeah, like where is this dude? What's he doing? He's
that was the other place that I had never heard of. It's the Vale and then Rune.
Wasn't the Vale where
I've heard of the Vale, not the Vale.
Runestone.
Runestone, that's it. Yes, I've never heard of Runestone.
It's where his wife is, because that's where he's later in the episode told to go back to. So I assume
it's presumably in the Vale somewhere. Is how I assume, because she is from the Vale that they say earlier.
Yeah, so presumably it's a castle in the Vale, perhaps that is no longer in existence in Game of Thrones.
In the Vale, yeah. Yep.
Perfect. And kind of the whole idea, like I wanted to note that Daemon is just notably missing, right?
Yeah.
Because from Rhaenyra's, what would he be, like the main guard? He's kind of like what the Hound was to Joffrey.
Yeah, he's like
Is he captain of the King's Guard?
He might be captain. Yeah, I think that's the vibe. I don't know that they ever say it in the episode, but that's the vibe I'm getting.
The captain rolls with the king. There's always like just another like soldier that
to
just
go with the princess, rolls with the
princesses.
Yeah, I don't know. They don't ever call it out. I'm sure we'll learn who he is, obviously, but yeah, I don't know. He's not in it a whole heck of a lot. He's in like very pivotal parts, and that's about it. So we might not ever learn what his position is exactly, but
yeah. But we get a little bit of his demeanor here, because basically he tips Rhaenyra off that he, being Daemon, is here. And she was like, did anyone see him come in? And he says no. So a little bit of like sneakiness here, where Daemon likes to kind of control his timing when he interacts with people.
Giving me Oberyn vibes there for sure. How Oberyn rolled up without anybody knowing to the Purple Wedding. So I'm loving all the callbacks already, man. Like they did a good job piecing all this together. So
yeah. And speaking of her like bodyguard though, like when they open the door to the throne room, Daemon's sitting there and he's like, some sort of exclamation, like, whatever, the king or
he's
God,
pissed.
Something like she's like, it's okay. So I really, really like, it's an interesting interaction. I do like it, but I am worried because Daemon and Rhaenyra have like that's her uncle, that's his niece. They have a great admiration for each other. They really like each other. And throughout the episode, like they just enjoy, and even Viserys, the king, like they all look at each other with admiration. They all love each other very much.
Right. Yeah. That's the cool thing about this. And I really like the king. Like, I think they did a really good job showing
I like him
like a peaceful king would be, because we don't see that very often, you know what I mean? Especially in this world. So it's cool to see that, like, he's not, even though he does get angry multiple times throughout this, he's not like a cruel, mad king by any stretch of the imagination. So I do like that. But I also like the parallel between him and his brother, who's the wild card. You know what I mean? We got like the peaceful dude on the throne, and then his crazy wild card brother. And I hate to break it up again, but it's giving me Oberyn Martell vibes specifically. We have the older one who's like the peace loving king in the wheelchair, and then Oberyn who's out for revenge and all this stuff. So I like that a lot. I love Daemon so far. I can't wait to see more of this character, dude. I do like that he gives her a Valyrian steel necklace in this opening shot here, saying that we both have parts of our history, which I think is super cool. She calls out Dark Sister, which is his Valyrian steel sword that he wields. So, yeah, I mean, I know because I read enough to know where that story is going with them. So I'm excited to see it pan out at least.
Yeah, I just think the interactions between the three Targaryens, more or less, are just real. Like three main ones here are just really good. Great acting, and the how much Daemon like alters from person to person, and his behavior is just intense.
And
I just like her character, like her look, like her demeanor is really good too. It's interesting. She has a lot of admiration for her uncle, but it's also more like a brother sister thing too.
Right.
But with like Game of Thrones like on hand, like as soon as I'm like, oh, they're like really brother and sister, like, but then I'm like, oh crap, they're Targaryens, and I'm like, oh crap, like
you know where you're going. Yeah,
I'm like, oh dear, like don't do it.
You should get used to that because we're dealing with the Targaryens, and we know that's their thing for sure.
Yeah, and they hint at it with the Corlys children being very attached to each other during the tournament.
Right.
And then the next scene is the one underneath the weirwood tree, where Rhaenyra and Alicent are basically discussing Rhaenyra's ambition, or it's a history lesson, but like she's not very into it. She was even like, fuck the High Septum.
She's like, I think that I don't know how to take this because it seems like she says that she's worried for her mom. That's why she's acting this way. But I think she's far more concerned about the baby that's coming, and she's going to be overshadowed by potentially by that baby. I think that's what's really wrecking her. So I just want to know where this freaking weirwood tree is and how we didn't see it or even hear about it.
It's for sure gone by time
Game of
Thrones happens. Oh yes, because further,
those are like sacred trees. You don't do that to though.
But so we still have the whole by the new gods and the old right now. So like that was continuous. But I'm pretty sure by Game of Thrones time, the South very much rejected the old gods, and it was really the seven or nothing.
You're right.
And really the old gods was only a thing in the North. So I think by the time Game of Thrones, like they definitely like just maybe they didn't chop it down, but it's just not a point of interest,
right? Not a point. Yeah, that's a good point.
If there was a weirwood tree in King's Landing, Game of Thrones, Cersei and Jaime for sure banged.
Guarantee it. Sure. It had some trippy dream while they were leaning up against it, probably.
Yeah. So there's a cool little scene because basically this builds on like their very sisterly best friend, very teeny best friend kind of relationship. But we all know that gets kind of like broken and overshadowed later on. Which I'm kind of mad. I know kind of so much of what's like.
Yeah, I do too, man. I was trying to keep myself as tunnel vision as possible, just enough to get these episodes out and get this companion series rolling. And I think I might have went a little overboard because I at least know the path that we're going. I don't know how we're going to get there necessarily, but I know the path, and that's the testament to this episode. Like I didn't think half of the stuff that was in this episode was going to happen. Like I didn't think we were going to see the mom. I didn't think a lot of the stuff that happened. So maybe it's not, maybe I don't know as much as I think I do is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. But I mean, it's kind of the showrunner's fault because it's just the nature of like how we promote stuff these days. Like they just put way too much out there in trailers and the little like character profiles and stuff like that. So it's a little bit on them, because I can't stay completely in the dark because it's not like we went out and looked up like we haven't read the books, so at least we're blind in that aspect.
And I fought that off hard because I almost bought the book because I was like, I should probably read this. But thinking back, like I haven't read the Game of Thrones book, so I didn't want to read the book before. Like I'll read it after, even though I say that, and I haven't read Game of Thrones either, so it just never happens. But
yeah, so I don't know. Like there's only so much you can like resist, and then maybe I just will try to not watch the like teasers for the next episodes. Maybe just stop doing that.
Yeah, I totally missed it, so.
Yeah,
I'm good.
I think lucky for you.
Yeah.
For you. We get a quick scene with the king has like this infectious wound on his back, which is quite pussy and gross.
Yeah. So this is a cool callback to the books, I think, because he says that it's a cut from the throne, and that's something that we did not see at all in the main series, but is in the books, I believe, pretty frequently in the books.
Now, I don't think this cut though is from the throne.
I don't think it is either.
He's just saying that.
I think he's just saying that, but we do see it later on in the episode, the throne cutting him.
Yes.
So I just like it's a throne made out of swords. Like, of course it's going to cut the people that sit on it, but I like the thought of, I think it's in the books, like whoever sits on the throne that doesn't deserve it, the throne will eventually kill because it's going to cut him so many times. It's going to kill him at some point. Yep. And we've seen like Khal Drogo, like a cut could be fatal in this world. Like we're not at the tip top of medical in the medical field here in this time zone. So
no matter how much weird stuff those macers do at the Citadel,
right?
They don't got it.
So I like that. I think we're gonna see more of that super cool little snippet to pull from the books. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think that? Yeah, do you think this is of importance? This little thing?
It's of importance because
I think it is too.
It's the first little hint here. The Grand Maester and Otto are kind of like talking off to the side, like trying to keep it hush hush. So like we got a little bit of the start of just like, are they in his best interest? Are they acting in their best interest? Is it just no big deal? And they're just kind of keeping it under wraps. It's definitely not no big deal.
Right.
So I think it's going to come along later. I'd expect, because if it was just a cut from the throne, it would be no big deal, just kind of passable. But that thing was infected and gross.
Yes,
and they also didn't know much about it. Like they're searching the Citadel library for like mentions of this.
Yeah, I think this is going to play a much bigger part in this story than this throwaway scene here for sure.
Yep, nothing's a throwaway scene in this world.
It's true.
And then the next scene, King and the Queen, they're kind of discussing her pregnancy. He's excited. She's not so excited. She kind of really just tells him like this is the last one for her. She's had many stillborns, miscarriages, and just you name it. Like definitely I felt like 4 is the number that kind of rings in my head, but definitely many. And then she's just kind of like done. And I feel like it's been like a 10-year period.
She said 5 and twice as many years or whatever.
Yep, that's what it was.
So it's got to be pretty common to lose a child back then, I would imagine. So it's cool. It's just always so weird to me though that like in this world, like the women apologize for not giving a male heir when it's really like completely up to the man to provide the sex of the baby. It's just so bizarre, their line of thinking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I do like the quote where she's like, nothing that you do is going to cause the baby to grow a cock if he doesn't already have one. I'm like, it's so good, man.
No matter how long. He had a dream though. He had a dream.
Yep.
And I like the creators in that bit at the end of the episode. They're kind of citing like a similar time in like actual history where birth rates were 50%. And I think it was either 50% for the child or is 50% for the woman to survive. So
I mean, I can believe
pretty bad odds overall. But yeah, this is kind of just like a little bit of a tense scene, just because she's just like, dude, like,
she's miserable. Yeah,
I'm kind of done after this. Like, you're just gonna have to figure something else out, man. So that goes on, and then we get this very intense scene of we get the city watch kind of like beating their shields, and then you have Daemon walking in looking all badass, and he kind of like gives them a pep talk, and like they get all hot and bothered and head out into the streets. And basically I assume these are known criminals, how they round them up so easily.
Who knows, man. It looks almost at the beginning, like they're just ransacking the city and beating the crap out of everybody. But I do believe that they are criminals. That seems to be what the council
Someone just
discusses.
shouted at the one guy that you're a rapist, and then they just like cut his cock
Yeah,
off.
yeah. It's like what? Yeah, we
And
get a
then-
lot of hands cut off for thieves. A lot of the other things cut off, and
some heads cut off
some
too.
it's a brutal scene, man.
They had
And
a
this is
cart full
good
of just parts.
because this is like I think it's showing you what Daemon is all about. You know what I mean? He's about
Action.
that power. He's about that action, that power. So it's cool. I like that the they pile them all in the cart at the end, all the pieces and parts, and then the council in the next scene says they had to use like 2 horses for the carts because they had so many body parts on it. Yeah. Cool scene. Cool to see the Golden Cloaks back to their kind of early Game of Thrones vicious ways, if you remember what they did in those first couple seasons.
Not as well armored, but
not as well armored. Yeah,
man, they're complaining about what he spent to like revitalize the City Watch. Like, dude, in like Game of Thrones time, like they are decked to like they are full gold cloak and armor, everything. Like, dang.
I do like
spending just got worse and worse in the
for
capital.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. As soon as Robert took over, it was just all downhill for the money for the realm for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I like the original gold cloak design, but I like this design for whatever. Just the gold cloak,
very raw,
dark
very
armor. Yeah. I think it looks really cool. I don't know that we're gonna see any more really of the gold cloaks. I think this was like the snippet that we're gonna get, but we'll see.
It also kind of reminded me more of like early 20th century like London or like Irish, where like the cops gear up and they're gonna go set or like basically they're fighting with the mob, right, or something like that, the gangs, and like it's gangs in New York like style like fighting.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So that was cool. Just where everyone gets riled up and they're gonna go lay down the law.
Yeah, love that.
They are both the judge and executioners on the streets.
Yeah, they are.
And the way we move into the next scene is really cool because we have the Hand Otto kind of like telling Viserys what happened and was basically like talking very strongly about Daemon and how like he just cannot act with this impunity. Rolling into the council chamber, assuming that Daemon's not there.
Right.
He's there.
And he's there. Yeah.
And Daemon's like you were saying. And this is where we get this really great first interaction of like Daemon versus Otto.
Love it. Yeah.
And it's kind of in reverse where like in Game of Thrones, the Hand was very powerful. No one really misspoke to the Hand. Where in this situation, we have a Hand who has to operate underneath the royal family.
Right.
So the Hand, like the king still took Daemon's like he was this like Otto. He likes to poke at you and get you going. Just deal with it, dude.
Yeah.
And he said some rowdy stuff to him. Like,
about his dead, like his wife dying and stuff. Yeah. I love this interaction. I know we're gonna get a ton of this probably with Daemon. I can't wait to see more of it. This feels like old Game of Thrones, man. Like bickering at the small council meeting and their interactions. If you gave me a show dedicated to just those two guys' interactions, I'm sold. Because you can tell that there's a deep history there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. A not so loving history, obviously. That like there's bitterness between these two already before this happens. Sure. So I'm vibing with it, man. I'm vibing with the path we're going here.
Yeah. So and they kind of just continue to berate him, whether it's over the costs he has spent on the City Watch, how he's not with his wife in the Vale. He spends his time with whores. Like they're just kind of trying to run him down. But he still makes his claim. Like he's like, how do we expect all the lords to come to the capital here when you expect them to get mugged and raped and all this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good argument, honestly. Like we're getting ready to set up this huge tournament for the birth of Viserys's child, and all these people are coming in. And he even says, like, have you been out? Like, King's Landing is considered terrifying. So I dig it, man. I dig it. He maybe doesn't go about it the right way, but I can see where his thought is cleaning up the city the way he did.
It's tough. He's arrogant, but right. You know, it's a tough position to hold there, and
absolutely.
It makes not right arrogant people upset.
Right.
It's just a battle of the arrogance.
Yep.
There in the room. Let's see here. Oh, and I want to note too, like, this also highlights like the king's peacetime approach to things. Like, he's just very much a mediator. He like avoids conflict, and he just tries to make everyone happy.
Yeah. What's with the little marble ball in the plate? Is that like they're clocking in, or
when everyone has dropped their little marble eye thing into the hole, it's like the meeting has started.
Okay. Yeah.
I could have swore there was something like that in like season 1 of Game of Thrones or very early council meetings, but I do not remember it from the second watch. So maybe I'm just like fever dreaming it.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember it. I was just curious what those things were. I assumed that's what it was. Like,
yeah,
you know, clocking in, if you will.
The king's guard puts it down for the king. The king doesn't have to do it.
Yeah.
It's just formality. But yeah, this is like scene 2 of 3 in the small council room. So leaning into it there.
Yep, love it. Take all those they want to throw our way. I'm here for them.
Yeah. So I guess I think that was technically day 2, because we got like first day, then like City Watch murdered everybody. Then here's day 2. And day 2 is really that was like the morning meeting. Now the tournament starts. So the fact that Daemon kind of rolled out there the night on the eve of the tournament is like, we're going to clean it up now. That's pretty like cutting it to the last minute. But
for sure. Yeah.
Makes the point. Like I don't think very many people were committing crimes the next day.
True. Very true. Yeah, for sure. That's a very good point. Yeah.
Peace, love, aims. It's the I'm ready to listen ball.
Ready to listen ball. Yeah, that's what it is.
We're ready to talk with, no one listens in that room. They're all talkers.
Yeah. So I think our next scene is in the brothel. Yeah.
Oh, did I? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This was him kind of letting out his his
typical
energy.
Game of Thrones. We get a sex scene in the brothel. I did think it was funny that there was like all the women in the brothel were watching through the thing because the prince is in the brothel.
The prince.
The dragon prince.
Raging.
Yeah. And you could tell that he's got something else on his mind. Like, he's not totally into what's going on. So yeah, I know people are going to be bitter about the sex scenes. Is what it is, man. Like, you're going to get them. This is a time of brothels. Like, deal with it.
That was the only one, wasn't it?
No, there was more.
There was just one more, but there was
one more.
It was just like general orgy, like
it's just general.
It wasn't Daemon.
General
Daemon going to town on like a mistress. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just watching everybody else do it.
Now
in a giant room. I can't believe you just said that's just general orgies.
It's just general debauchery. It's not like Zoom close up.
Yeah,
it's just like general panning. Like, you just look at Daemon the whole time. You don't even
see it.
Yeah. That's how desensitized I am to these things. I was like, there's only one scene,
right?
But so I couldn't even piece this together on the second watch. Is that his side piece in this first sex scene? Okay, so that's the same side piece that's kind of rolling with him from the beginning to the end of this episode. Yep. Okay. She has a name. I don't think it's even said.
I don't think it's said in this episode. She does have a name. She actually has a character like thing on a character trailer. So I assume she's going to be
later.
Yeah, she's going to be a big character. And I think I know where that story is heading, unfortunately, too. So we'll see if that pans out. But yeah, I don't know. We don't get too much of her in this. Just those 2 brothel scenes and a final scene at the end that I'm sure we're going to talk about.
Yeah, classic mistress becomes important later. Coin there. So yeah, after that, I completely forgot that whole entire scene even happened. I was going to skip right to the tournament the next day. So we get the tournament, which is very grand, very awesome, very kind of like, I like this oval arena, just like 100% like we are jousting people. That is what we are doing.
And I will say the jousting here is far more intense than the jousting that we saw in the original series. Far more intense.
I think that's because the last duel has come out since. Game of Thrones duels.
Yeah.
So they're like, let's just do that. Like, this is how it went down. Like, we shatter shields, shatter lances, and then we call them out on foot combat and just beat each other to death.
Well, that too, but in the original one, like they took a pass at each other and then went around, turned around, stopped, took another pass at each other. Here, they're just looping. They're like grabbing the.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? And they just
that's
keep
how it's
going.
properly done.
Yeah, and it's way cooler cinematically to watch that.
I've been many jousting tournaments, and like that's how it's actually done.
They just roll through. Yeah, I bet you have. Yeah, I like that for sure. Like, we didn't see too much jousting, I think, in the original, maybe once or twice in the original series, and it's very early on when they were figuring it out. But you can tell here that we're like in 2022 Westeros, if you will, and we got some more things figured out. But I love the scene through and through, the way that it's filmed, the way that the stories go back and forth with each other.
Peace, Love, Aims made A Knight's Tale look like a children's story.
Yeah.
Yes, it did. Lots more abrasive violence in this one.
Yeah.
And someone got their head split in two as well.
Yeah. Like, and is that's my next question. Is that like okay? Like they died, like he killed that dude. So is that just like it's chill? Because we're in a tournament?
When Corlys and his wife are talking, the day has turned bloody, right?
Yeah.
So generally, I think it varied. I think if they wanted to kill each other, like it was fine. Like it's just the thing to do. Maybe like lesser houses and like lesser known ones would just try to go all out to like really make a show of it. Whereas like you get the prince, right? You get Daemon. He's not gonna necessarily get murdered by someone. No one's gonna murder him on the tournament floor, and he's not necessarily gonna be like cracking skulls in half either. Like, he has some reservation in his profile as well.
Yeah. So I like we get a lot of callbacks here. We get a lot of callbacks to houses that we have seen in the original. Baratheon called it out with the sigil on the shield, the stag on the shield.
They're
Tarly.
Cousins.
Yeah, Tarly we hear.
Yep.
Which is super cool. You know how I feel about House Tarly. And Dondarrion, which I was actually shocked that we heard that. That's Beric Dondarrion's house. So I don't know if they're a bigger house than they are. Presumably, his house is somewhat big because he's like part of the lingering. Like Ned sends him away at the beginning of the series as part of getting the mountain or whatever.
Yep.
So apparently the house is probably bigger than what they show on the show. But I just thought it was cool that we got that. But I love the other small touches here, like the drums have the Targaryen sigil on them, like all that little stuff, dude. It's so cool.
It's very polished world for sure.
Very, very, yeah.
Got other fun stuff like Rhaenyra and Alicent. They gossip kind of like teenagers would about just the different houses. Kind of like who's pregnant.
Which is cool. Like that's how you assume a teenager would be acting at these things. You know what I mean?
Royal teenagers.
Royal, yeah. Alicent's got like some sort of nail biting / picking issue she's got going on throughout the episode. I don't know why they were focusing on that so much. You see it a couple times throughout the episode. Her fingernails like bleeding from picking them so much.
In hindsight, I kind of feel like that might be just like a nod to her nervousness. She's nervous, and I think she might be a little uncomfortable because her father overextends her. Because even in this scene, they trade eyes, right? When she gives Daemon her blessing, like she's doing what makes Rhaenyra happy, but also like it's against her house by giving Daemon, who just smashed her brother into the dirt, her blessing, right?
Yeah,
and that was another jab Daemon did at Otto. Was like,
and I love it.
So I feel like I think she's uncomfortable with like where her father expects her to behave and act. So he's like, make the princess happy, make me happy. Just
it's got to be a nerve. Yeah, that's got to be a nerve-wracking position for such a young girl to be in this world specifically. But yeah, I love Daemon picking out, all of them lined up and him picking out. And as soon as you see knowing that Hightower is from the Citadel, I think we talked about that in episode 0. Hightowers are the ruling house in Old Town.
Yep.
So as soon as I saw the shield with the citadel on it, I was like, oh, like I know for sure he's gonna pick that. And then he picks the favor from the daughter too, like just taking his little jabs. Like this is classic Game of Thrones, man. I don't care what you say. These little behind the back, all the burns, dude. I love it. I loved it so much.
Makes Otto really want to write a letter up and put it on a raven and do something dirty.
Yeah.
Later on in the episode,
yeah,
which he might
sure.
have done.
Yeah.
But yeah, Daemon has just amazing armor. It's what I use for the art. I try to get a really good shot of it. I went with this image from the episode just because you have the whole cast basically there sitting. And then you have Daemon here kind of trotting by his potential opponents. And he has this like dragon helmet, which I love because you see this in a lot of fantasy stuff. And even like Lego, they had like a Dragon Knights theme back in like the 90s, which was really cool. And it's just really good cool, aesthetics from very traditional fantasy elements, but placed in this very obviously a fantasy genre. But as we always talk about, Game of Thrones is so grounded in very true medievalness, light magic. There's giant dragons everywhere, 10 of them to be exact, as I believe.
Yeah, that's the other thing we didn't point out, that during that narration in the beginning is they say that obviously we know this is at the height of the Targaryens' power, that they've shoved it down our throats since they announced this series. But they do have 10 adult dragons, full-grown adult dragons. So I'm sure that's going to be important later on. But back to the armor, I love it, man. It looks a lot like Rhaegar's armor from the artwork from the book that maybe I'll drop it in the Discord when we're done here, of him clashing with Robert Baratheon at the Trident. And it looks almost identical, I would say.
Shout out to Discord, join today, and check out the website, showboysmedia.com, plug.
So I like it. The only thing I don't like about his armor is that his face is open. Like, I feel like we know it's Daemon under there. He don't have to show it, cover his face.
This is tournament armor, man.
Yeah,
like,
maybe
he's
everybody else's face is covered.
He's Prince of the City.
Yeah, that's true.
He's putting it out there. He ain't shy.
True. Yeah, that's true.
He ain't scared.
Yeah.
He'd go helmetless if that helmet wasn't so cool.
Yeah.
Peace, love, Ames. Does anyone else think the name Daemon is a little too on the nose? I agree. Daemon is a little forward. But I like the name Daemon a lot. I used to use variations of it for like my characters in like RPGs. So it is what it is. But yeah, it's pretty on the nose for like such a high profile series, and everyone else has very, very Targaryen names. And are more appropriate. Daemon kind of sticks out a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. At least they spelled it like a Targaryen would spell it.
Extra vowels.
Yeah.
Can I get extra vowels of Targaryen for 500, please? Yeah. So this was a very small thing. I think it's just more of this like background action of just like the small council. They're like kind of scummy because you get the Master of Coin here gambling on the side, kind of like without like thinking anyone notices, like especially the king, like, 5 gold on Daemon.
On Daemon, yeah.
So we're getting little hints of just like the scummery that, like, of course, the Master of Coin's gambling.
And I do want to ask, when Daemon in the Hightower, so the guy he picks is Otto's eldest son.
Yep.
So they take a couple, maybe one pass at each other, and then Daemon like trips his horse. Is that like,
a thing? Same thing. I was like, is that fair? And then everyone was like, yeah. And then like, and then Vernera is like, well done, uncle. And I'm like, fair game, I guess. I guess if you can avoid getting hit yourself and can reach down and like trip the horse, fair game.
I took it as like it was a dirty shot.
I think it is a dirty shot, but a fair shot, I guess. Yeah. Because, I mean, also
it's on point for his character if it's a dirty shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Who's gonna fight him over? It's just like Jamie like pulling out like a dirty like sword play.
Yeah.
When he like the Ned thing. Well, no, the Ned thing he didn't do. He didn't like the fact that Ned got it through the calf. Poor guy. But yeah, that was definitely, I think, not the best move. He got a foul maybe for it, but like didn't get taken out of the game.
He got a foul. I do like their foot fight that we have. The audio. I'm an audio guy, so the audio in this fight scene is so on point. Like the splintering shield. with Cole.
Yeah.
I like. Oh yeah, that's later. Is that later on? That might be later on.
That's
sorry.
later on.
I just wanted to point out that he's fighting with a flail, which we don't ever see really. And I feel like that would be such an effective weapon in this time, like just a giant spiked metal ball on a chain.
Yep.
So I wanted to point that out. I also have to point out Dark Sister is badass looking. I love Daemon's sword. We see another Valyrian steel sword later on that we'll talk about, but this one's super cool looking. Slim. I think we hear Arya talk about Dark Sister with Tywin. As she's breaking down the Targaryen history with him. So go ahead, continue. Didn't mean to derail.
No, you're good. But yeah, he bests the Hightower boy by tripping up the horse. Peace Love Aim says it felt dirty. Yes, it definitely wasn't a fair play. It's kind of like when you elbow someone in the face in basketball, but you still made like the jump shot. Like foul, the person gets to shoot. Like Hightower, go home. Poor guys. But yeah, so around this time we get the this is also interesting. The Maester tells the Hand of what's happening before the king, and then the Hand tells the king. So we have this kind of just illusion that Otto very much controls the passage of information everywhere.
Telephone game, like when we were kids. Remember the telephone game? You'd start with one thing and then go through the entire class, and it'd be something totally different by the time. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't even think about it that way.
Told Otto, then Otto just leans in and tells the king. So like even if it's like the same thing, it's just showing how much Otto has control over the narrative around everything. And Viserys doesn't care much because he's just, he doesn't have time for that stuff, and he'd rather Otto just tell him everything because he very much trusts Otto.
Yeah.
Should he? Up for debate. So the short and dirty of it, really sad set of affairs here, but in the labor room, the queen, her child is in breach. So basically, I believe that is like the child is not turned properly to exit the womb effectively. So the child is essentially stuck. And it looks like at this time in history, they just encouraged the woman to push as hard as she possibly could to just unbreach it, which sounds not good for anyone.
Yeah, I think they say that they attempted to turn the baby, but all the attempts failed.
Right.
But yeah, dude, like this scene is just brutal, man. I can't imagine childbirth back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's rough. And then you got this is where it starts to jump a lot, and they do a good job kind of having this parallel scene go on as like this tension builds, because you have what is otherwise like not a good situation, but like you can see the writing on the wall. It's going to get worse. You have the Corleys talking about how like these are peacetime fighters. The day has turned bloody. They're really just kind of like raging in the pit there.
Yeah. It's just mass chaos at the tourney at this point. But I like this because it's kind of a drawback to the quote earlier. The child bed is our battlefield. So it's cool that they slipped that quote maybe like the second or third scene of the series, and then later on we see them both bouncing back and forth between the two.
Yeah. So we pan back because they're kind of talking about peacetime era. They come. She had something like they came with, and they have, I forget what she said, but it was a clever little like analogy for like just how the state of
it's basically the knights are green and they've never seen war, and they need to get their violence out or whatever, something along those lines.
Yeah, and so the Maester is then advising that there is a practice at the Citadel that they have kind of worked on, is basically a C-section where they make an incision and pull the baby out of the womb. The showrunners kind of alluded that they made it clear that there was no chance the queen would survive, so he just had to choose to either like lose them both or kill her and try to save the child. But I really felt like it was like she could have lived if he. I felt like he had a choice there, like her or the baby.
I agree. I
hate to argue with the showrunners, but that's not how it came off on screen.
I agree 100%. And I thought it was weird when they said that, because they said they make it obvious that she's going to die no matter what.
I was like, he totally just had to choose between them.
Yeah, right. So I think what they were saying though is the choice was either save the baby or lose both of them. So there was no option that the wife was going to survive. But it doesn't come across as blatant as they made it sound after the credits there when they were talking about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, without being like an OB or anything, like
But-
maybe in those times, like if you can't give birth to a baby that's like full term, maybe like that's just no good. Like there's no way she was gonna make it.
Oh yeah, I would
Like
imagine.
that seems like very, very intense.
Yeah. And we know that throughout the course of the show up until this point, the episode up until this point, he's very focused on getting this male heir. Very, very focused.
And even the Maester
so-
is like he kind of like, you know, like that's kind of the suggestion. Like remember, like you gotta do the thing.
So I think he makes the choice to do the C-section, which like that even to me, like now in 2022 seems like such a brutal thing to do to somebody, but I get why we do it now. Back then, no med besides milk of the poppy, which I'm sure is like not going to do much of anything in this situation. Yeah, tough decision to make, but he doesn't seem to sweat over it for too long, does he?
I mean, definitely sweats over, but he has to make a decision. And in these times, just as it is like the woman's duty to like bear a male heir, it is also like his duty to get one.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so I think it would have been looked down upon him by the other rest of the patriarchy that, oh, you chose your wife over the chance to have a male heir. Like that was dumb. Like I think that's like in hindsight, like the obvious choice for him as like king.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree.
That's it's a tough thing to translate to modern day, but like very much in these times, like sorry.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
But he double loses, and we kind of get a nice foreshadowing of that by the fact that Daemon actually loses to Christian Cole. So Targaryens are not winning right now.
Nope. And I like that because he's being a cocky ass during that moment when he loses Daemon.
I thought he was going to kill this Cole character.
I thought he was too. But I think this character might be bigger moving forward, this Cole character.
He's somebody's boyfriend later. He has to be.
And I
he's
think
flirting with the princess.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And they say that he's Dornish, I think, as well, which is interesting.
So basically, she said, "Oh, he's a stud."
Yeah. And he, like I said, fights with the most badass weapon to fight with in this time, in the flail. So I think that, but yeah, very bold. But like, is there a better weapon against a shield? Really?
A shield and a sword? Yeah, it's probably the best chance you have because you can't sword on sword Daemon, right?
Right.
But, like sword fighting.
Yeah, Jaime. He's got a Valyrian steel sword as well, so it's like double stacked from there. Which is interesting that he's even like allowed to use that at the turn. I don't know. The tournament thing is just so weird to me. Like these are like sharp. Because I'm trying to draw parallels to like tournaments in feudal Japan style where they were like wooden sword fighting, not full on metal trying to kill each other sword fighting. So I don't know. It's weird.
Well, there's definitely like probably different leagues, different settings. Like obviously the grand tournament for the king of the Seven Kingdoms, like fighting, all the stops are pulled out. Whereas like the local like season tournaments, they're wood swords. There's no killing. Like but I think like once you get to this one, like it's all gloves are off. Like it's time to be or be
it's
not.
like the boxers when they have the headgear on in the amateurs, and then the headgear comes out, the gloves get smaller and heavier. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah. So he loses. Maester announces the child is a son. So that's like potentially good news, but I picked up on it. I'm pretty sure like the Maester is not like sure because he's like, this child isn't breathing correctly. Like,
yeah, you can tell.
It looked like it was not a good situation.
Yeah, you could tell that, and you can hear kind of the baby like starting to maybe not breathe.
Yeah,
as he's looking down at him. But yeah, I unfortunately I knew that this baby had to die. Like, there's no way this baby is going to survive. So I knew this was coming. They did do it pretty well though.
Baby's
kind of shocking you at the pyre there.
Yeah, for hours, right? Because like literally that afternoon, they burn him at the pyre.
Yep.
And this is once again another cool scene, just in that it shows how the Targaryens roll. Like Daemon and all his fuckery. He
Yeah.
kind of like puts on like the big boy face, and like he's there for them. Like, you know, he even tells like Rhaenyra, like, they're waiting for
They're
you.
waiting
She
for it,
gets
yeah.
to say Dracarys to burn the pyre. Dad's devastated. The king is devastated. She is visibly torn here because she just went, because even at the end of the tournament, when all like everyone was basically getting word that the son was born, she had that look in her eye like she knew what was happening.
She knew something was up, yeah.
So she went from like fully, basically what she kind of feared was going to happen, and then all of a sudden that get undone, and also lose her mother at the
Right.
decision of presumably her father, but maybe there was no choice. So she has a lot of good acting emotion in her face in this
Absolutely.
scene.
Yeah.
Very wide range, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree. I also really like, we kind of, I don't even know if we talked about it, but their interaction in the throne room, they're speaking of Valerian, I believe.
Yes.
And they speak it here a couple times back and forth to each other. And I think she says something like, I hope for the couple moments that baby was alive, my dad found happiness, or something like that. Yeah, I love the scene. And she's got a way better Dracarys than Daenerys. She's got like the roll of the tongue going on. So
well, Danny,
it's cool to hear her say that. It's like, oh, she said it. She said it.
Danny didn't grow up with dragons. She probably
True.
had to learn that from somewhere.
Right.
She's heard tales of it. Like,
yeah,
oh, there's this word you say and they breathe fire.
yeah,
It's magic.
Lost the accent, huh?
Yeah. So here we are with like the next council meeting, right? Again, lots of council meetings here, and this is like that evening, because everyone seems tired, annoyed. The king is devastated, and all Otto wants to talk about is like, dude, we got to talk about your succession. It's
yeah,
like,
bro, piss poor timing. Yeah, piss poor timing, man. I don't, you got to assume that Otto's got something. He's got an end goal here. I think that's why this.
He starts off as like low key hand of the king to like, dude, you are very aggressively pushing an agenda here.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is, but like you got one.
Absolutely, that's how I feel, and you can even tell like in the background, the Corlys Valerian is like shocked that he even asked the question. Like he turns around in like utter shock. So yeah, I don't know. He's got to play, and I'm sure we're gonna see it. But yeah. Piss poor timing, bro. Like,
mince no words, waste no time. Like, it wasn't even the next morning. Like, it was that evening.
Like, could you wait? Yeah, I mean, I get it for the stability of the realm to have this kind of stuff in play. But yeah, I could probably wait till the next morning, maybe the day after that. Like, I don't think the king's going to be getting murdered anytime soon or dying anytime soon. So,
and that was his point, because like he quickly came to that. He's like, "What is going to happen? Like, my brother's going to murder me? Like, what are you guys talking? Like, because I think the Master of Coin was like by design or by whatever. He's like, by design. Like, what are you saying right now?
Yeah, they're just laying a lot of shit on this poor king hours after a tragedy.
Yeah, and shout out to Corlys for being like, there is an heir, and it's Daemon. As Daemon like listens from behind the
that scene I love too, because they're talking about like how Daemon has no ambition for the throne and stuff, and he's like laughing. He's just laughing behind the curtain. So yeah, I love that. I love the Valerian dude. He's very straightforward, no bullshit. Like, here's your heir. You have an heir. Like, well, what are we even talking about here? I like to see it,
guys.
Like I said, man, the small council scenes in this episode are on point for sure.
They tell so much of like what's going on without like talking. They do talk, but like it's a lot of color.
Absolutely,
that's going on. But like, Corlys, he gives his support for Daemon. Master of Coin like kind of suggests like it should be Rhaenyra, and then I don't know what the other dude is, the more round-facey Master of Coin, like just generic, like kind of white guy.
Yeah, the younger dude you're talking with the beard.
Yeah, the younger one.
I don't know what he is either.
But he kind of was like, let's not disrupt tradition here and just like make a girl queen. He's like, that's not cool. Obviously, Otto is all for Rhaenyra for one reason or another. So it's cool that Daemon kind of like, I like his character a lot, and I like his style. Like, he's informed. He also doesn't overreact to things. His
Yeah.
reactions are very calculated. Like
Absolutely.
he's eavesdropping on this meeting. Like any of this doesn't change his opinion much of any of these people. Like it's set.
Right. Yeah. He knows that these guys are talking behind his back. But it's just cool to see him kind of snickering about the ambition for the throne stuff.
Yes.
It was a cool touch.
Yeah. So that conversation falls apart and the king storms off. Like he is just upset.
This is one of the moments where we see him get vividly angry with the council, which rightfully so. If I do say so, I would have been pissed too.
Out of line, even for Game
and
of
you
Thrones.
Can even tell like Otto is frustrated or like worried. I don't know. He's got like a reaction to him leaving. Like shit, my plan didn't pan out. And it's obviously he doesn't want Daemon on the throne. It's clear. They hate each other. You can get it through the entire episode. So it is odd that he seems like a tradition type of dude, like male heir type of guy. So it is weird that he's in the princess's court, but I think that that's for a reason.
Yeah.
Not per se that he likes her or wants to see her on the throne.
Yeah, he's just trying to destabilize things like a jerk.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, and more Otto. We get Otto here writing a letter, sealing it, and having someone send it off on a raven, which is fun. We all know how that goes.
Yeah.
Then Alicent shows up and kind of embraces her and just like comforts her. But then he turns real cold real fast, and he's like, "You should go visit the king and comfort him."
Yeah.
She's like in his chambers and like, yeah, go. You should wear one of your mother's dresses.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like basically if you could marry your daughter off tonight to the king, you would.
You would, absolutely. Yeah, I like this. This is the scene that gave me major Tywin / Littlefinger vibes as well.
Yeah.
Just the behind the scenes thing. Like, you know where this is heading. And I like that they're setting it up in the first episode that we're already down this path. But Otto's got that. And I think they mentioned in the episode, he's got that like second born son thing where he just wants to, everything that he's going to get, he needs to get himself. It's not going to get handed to him like his older brother per se. So yeah. Do you love Otto? Like Otto is like front runner for me, like for sure. Him and Daemon.
I like that he is like Tywin, but I don't like what he's up to. Like, I think he's kind of like scummy. I'm on Team Daemon way more than like Team Otto.
Yeah,
I like
he's just as scummy. He's just more violent with his scumminess.
Oh, I disagree. I think he's honest and open and truthful.
That's true. I mean, that's true. That's true.
And
Bluntly.
Otto is like the opposite.
Yeah.
Except, and it's not Daemon's fault that none of them think that he wants the throne. They're idiots for thinking that. Like, it's pretty clear that, like, I don't know who said that or why, but like clearly Daemon would sit on that throne if he could.
For sure. The first scene we see of him, he's sitting on the throne. So keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, these guys they're not with it with the Daemon. Like, they get it, but they don't get it.
Yeah.
And there was a good quote in there too. Like Otto said, he was like, there's yet to be a man with the patience for like
without the patience for absolute power. Yeah. Great quote. I agree.
Because the king was like, he doesn't have patience for the throne. He's like, patience isn't a requirement to be king.
Wait. Yeah. To wait to be king. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and also this scene with Alicent is the way she reacts to her father. And this is what tipped me off to like, she's not really comfortable fully with like what her father asked her to do, and she's really just a tool for him to like wield around. So she was like, yeah, like really, like okay, whatever, I have to, I know. So poor Alicent. She's gonna be already a character torn throughout the series.
Absolutely she's gonna be the married off woman left and right probably here. So
yeah. Now go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to say,
like, we kind of just move right into the king's chambers, and I think this is a giant model. Like, I like this guy. He has a giant model in his
yeah, it is. It's a giant model of Valyria, which is also really cool because we've seen the ruins of Valyria, but we haven't really seen what it looked like before the Doom.
Yeah, and this kind of foreshadow. One, we get bits of like Rhaenyra is very versed in her histories. Targaryens are generally versed in their histories. He's obsessed with it, and he has a model of Valyria, and this kind of like foreshadows like the important tidbit they say later.
Yeah,
But I think that's cool, like that he has that going in there, and she
absolutely.
kind of just brings a history book and just hangs out with them. Really, luckily that doesn't go anywhere.
Right. Yeah, that
We were
scene.
spared.
Yeah, we're spared for sure. Yeah, I thought for sure that we were gonna get a little bit more dialogue. I think the only thing that happens is she says, like, I know when my when my mother died,
Yeah,
like the only thing I wanted was somebody to say they were sorry for what happened, and she's like, I'm sorry for what happened. And that's pretty much the scene. But yeah, I do like it. I do like the model. I think it's super cool that and I think he's even like tinkering with it too. Like
yeah,
at first he's looking at the ring and then he's like tinkering with a dragon statue or something for the model. So
yeah. He's working on his model. That's how
yeah,
it
it's
goes.
cool. It's cool.
Um,
Yeah.
Good for him. I have Legos, so
Yeah.
Man after my own heart. So here's the other scene that apparently is so terrible. Daemon here ponders what I would call like the state of the crown. Like he's kind of just like I think he's on the fence here. Like he doesn't want to embrace this whole situation for what it is, but one of his captains and his mistress here kind of egg him on to be like give a speech amongst like people who are pretty big fans of him. But
Yeah.
it's easy to be it's easy to be the guy at the strip club when you're paying for like
Yeah.
everything. Of course, everyone's gonna be like,
Right.
"Yeah, say
Yeah.
something sweet and like
Yeah.
like terrible." And
Right.
he said something. If he did he? They didn't actually have him say it,
No. We
but
learn again
word on
from
the
the small
street.
council. Yeah, we learn word on the street. And I think it might be what is it Otto? I think it might have been Otto
Otto.
that told him.
Otto's doing the fill in here as we jump between small council and pissed off council and the brothel. The
Yeah.
week before.
And
And
yeah, I
your
like that. I
the
like
meme
that
you
they
sent
didn't show it.
just yeah, yeah, because you don't really know if he said it. He never owned up to it. He never
Right.
said he did or he didn't in a very Damon type way. But was it air for the day?
Air for a day. Yep.
Baylor, the air for a day.
Baylor, the air for a day. So so I
Ouch.
mean, yeah, that's a shitty thing to say, especially about your brother's child that just died.
But he
So
did say like, "I am not that easy to replace."
yep.
He did say
Yeah.
that much. So he said stuff that wasn't tasteful, but who knows how distasteful it was either way.
Right.
Just another good reason for Otto and the council to be like, this guy just ain't it.
Yeah.
Like, get him out of here.
And this is the moment that I think Viserys sees it as well.
Yeah,
Which is
and
cool.
I did like though they snapped back at Otto a little bit. Was like he's like, dude, because they were complaining about the City Watch thing again.
Yeah,
He's
he's
like,
like, you did that.
you did that. Like
Yeah.
all these things that you complain about him doing, like you do. And he's
Yep.
basically like, there's nothing else I can do. Like he's just a problem.
Yeah. Otto's very clear. He's like, he needs to be far away from this court.
Yeah.
Far away. And even I think I mean, it seems like Viserys is still kind of wishy-washy on where he wants Daemon, because I think he says in this council meeting, like, he's my brother and he will have a place at this court.
Mm-hmm.
But then the scene that follows this, he says all about the opposite. And I think that's because he learns of what he said about his kid, right?
Yeah, he continues on, and then he's like, hey, this is what said. And even Rhaenyra is like, dang.
Yeah.
Uncle said that?
Right.
Unc Day said that? Dang. So we finally get to see Viserys here sitting on the throne. He seems to not really want to sit there much because he gets cut. Like
Can't blame him. Yeah, can't blame him.
He ain't built. Now, that's the foreshadowing because Daemon walks in. He calls him out directly, like, did you say this? And basically Daemon's position is like the small council is a bunch of scumbags. They can't protect you. And Viserys is like, what protect from what? And he's like, yourself. He's like, you're basically weak.
Yeah.
And you ain't built for this, bro.
Right.
And, you know, after he leaves, because he tells him like, dude, you're going to go back to the Vale, to your wife, no quarrel about it. And he gets cut, right? He's like, crap, got cut by the throne, which is like, is Daemon right? Is he not right? Like, what's going on here? So very cool scene.
Yeah, I dig the scene. I dig the new throne as well. All the different
Yeah,
swords on it. I haven't quite picked out the Witcher sword or the World of Warcraft sword. They're in there somewhere. I haven't seen them yet. But I also want to point out Blackfire, which is the other Valyrian steel sword I was talking about. That's the one he's holding.
that thing is cool.
It's really cool. Yeah, definitely a cool design on the sword. But I think this cut thing, I think this is going to play in much bigger because they're making a point. They've said it twice in this episode that he's been cut maybe by the throne. So I think it's cool that they show it kind of going back to what Daemon said in that argument that he's weak. And then they show him getting cut at the end. I think this is, if I had to guess prediction wise, this cutting of the throne that it's doing to Viserys is going to be a big deal at some point. Maybe not in this season, but in the series for sure. Something big.
Someone's gonna like from this throw him onto all the pointy swords off to like the side. He's just gonna be impaled.
Seems like poor design. Yeah, poor design.
I guess easy to defend. Like no one's walking through there to like fight you, so you just gotta defend what's in front of you.
Right.
I don't know. It's like definitely got your flanks.
Your flanks are covered. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a fun scene. And essentially with Daemon walking out, this triggers like our final sequence here.
Yeah.
Which Viserys meets with Vernera in, I want to say this is actually in the Dragon Stable Temple, not in the castle, but perhaps it is in the lower basement of the castle because we know that's where the skulls are kept. I can't imagine they would have moved them. So
so I think that they did move them because if you remember when Robert took over, he had all the dragon skulls removed from the throne room and sent down into there. So I would imagine Balerion, who's the biggest dragon, Aegon's dragon, and I believe Viserys may have rode him for the last couple of years. I'll have to double check that. But the biggest like showpiece of their power is going to be somewhere up, not down in the dungeons.
Very true.
Yeah. So I'm not entirely sure where this is at. It does look different from where we see Balerion's skull in Game of Thrones down in the, where
looks a little bigger too.
It does look a little bigger, yeah. So I think this is like a showpiece somewhere up, not down in the basement, if you will.
Yeah, but it's definitely basement enough to like have some privacy because they're talking about a very serious matter here.
Oh yeah.
So basically, Viserys is like, all jokes aside, like she's like, you haven't talked to me since Mother died. Like, you send your King's Guard to come get me. He's like, listen, it's serious. I got a serious thing to tell you. And this is cool how it kind of starts breaking down because we get cut over to Daemon with his dragon kind of prepping to like leave.
And I got to point out, I love the design of his dragon. Like it looks radically different.
It's a worm.
Yeah.
It's a worm wyvern.
Right. I love it. Where her dragon looks like a dragon, just a little
more
bit
stocky, more compact,
stocky, shorter,
more bat wing.
This one just looks radically different from anything that we've seen so far.
I love that it's a worm wyvern because it even has but it has extra like wings on its hind legs too.
Yeah, super cool design, man. And I think I don't know what exactly is going on with him. And so this is the other scene we were talking about with his like mistress or whatever, where he's like trying to get her to bond, I guess, with the dragon in some way. Putting her hand on it, and
she's just the neighborhood hoe, and
he's just showing off, showing off his fancy toys.
Just touch it, touch my shiny red car.
Yeah, so I do like the parallels of bouncing between those two scenes here for sure.
Yeah, and this is just so cool because it adds so much more oomph to the Targaryen claim, to their purpose, to a lot of things.
Yes.
And I did not expect this at all. And basically they're kind of discussing like where the power of the Targaryens lies. Like when you look at the dragon skull, what do you see? She's like, I guess I see us, but they say Targaryens are closer to gods than men, but really it's only because we have dragons. Take those away and we're like everyone else.
Yep.
Cool line there. And Viserys follows that up with like the idea that we control the dragons is an illusion. which is a callback to Dany really kind of saying like, they're just my children. Like beyond that, like, I'm kind of just happy they stay around and they don't move out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we all saw what happened when Drogon moved out. He kind of like, where is he? My son's gone. And so generally he's explained the histories and the importance, and also like apologizing for being a bad father and wanting a son instead of just kind of putting all his faith into her and like his vote of confidence, basically.
Yeah.
And this is where he's like, of king or queen, right? And that's where she kind of gets the hint. And then he explains something more. And this is as Daemon kind of really like gets ready to leave in the other scene. And he tells this story of how Aegon over in Essos, saw this land ripe for conquest, and just how Danis, whoever, like, for this person who foresaw the end of Valyria, Aegon foresaw the end of the realm of men.
Yes.
And it begins with a terrible winter, gusting out of the distant north of just pure darkness. And it's just like, duh, Night King. But the only way this can be defeated and the realm of men can be saved is if a Targaryen is on the throne, which is just so cool because it just like really solidifies Targaryen's both past. Like Aegon was like, guys, like we got to do this. Dragons, we can win.
Yeah.
All the way fast forward, it's like Dany had to be the one to like help them win that.
Yeah.
But that was her only purpose.
Absolutely.
And
I
love that. Like backs up season 8 so much more too.
It does. It does. Yeah. I love this. I love that they threw this in here. So basically it's a dream that Aegon had where he saw this stuff happen. He called his dream A Song of Ice and Fire, which I think is another great callback to the actual name of the books. And I think the book at the end of the original series was written by one of the Maesters or whatever, was called that as well. But yeah, I love this. I love that they're preparing, and he says that this secret is passed down from Aegon to all the heirs up until him. And he kind of alludes to it as he grabs the dagger that we see Arya kill the Night King with.
Is that the same dagger that?
Same dagger,
yeah, that's the dagger.
Yeah, that's the dagger. So I like that they're like planning for this, but we know as the viewer that this doesn't come for another 170 something years.
Mm-hmm.
But it's cool to hear it here, and it's cool to see that they knew that this was coming. At least the Targaryens knew that this was coming, and it's like their kind of closely guarded secret is how I took it. You know what I mean? Because it's really, at the end of the day, it's a dream the dude had. Like you're not going to be able to convince too many people that
it's kind of like Palpatine building the Death Star to protect the galaxy from the extra galaxy threat, and then it's just like the lizard people that we need to defend ourselves from, all that stuff. So
absolutely. Yeah, I love this. I got to be honest with you, didn't think we were going to hear anything about the White Walkers in the series. So it's cool. Episode 1, we get a little snippet.
All they're doing is they're building it up so they can be like White Walker.
Yep.
Prequel.
Let's do it.
Or sequel, as our theory goes.
That's my theory. Snowboy. Yep.
So
got to keep them in the mind of the viewers.
Yeah, and so like as that is all being explained, though, we get a really cool. What did I call it? I called it
fealty scene.
Fealty. Like an heir naming ceremony, basically. Like they're naming the new heir, and everyone's pledging their fealty, their loyalty to this promise that when she's going to inherit it all.
Yeah.
Very cool. Great outfit she's wearing.
Love it. Yeah.
Once again, like very, very queen-esque armor, very, very HDR outfit she's got on.
Yeah.
And she just has a very, I don't know, she just seems so confident in what she is intending to do. Very much like her uncle, not unlike her father. Her father is just wish-washy. Meanwhile, there's like her and then her uncle who are like, we are it.
We are, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like I love the scene. We get a Baratheon here. We get a
Hmm.
Stark that we actually get to see a little closer up.
Rickon.
Rickon Stark. So yeah, they're all lining up and swearing their fealty, and I like that a lot. And we do see a scene of Alicent like helping her dress for the ceremony, and she's got like a super worried look on her face through the whole scene. So yeah, I don't know, man. I like this whole setup. I like seeing callbacks to the old houses, even though we're probably not going to see a lot of Baratheons and Starks in the story. Let's be honest. It is cool to see it here as they're all swearing their fealty.
If Allison is smart, she would see what's kind of coming. So if her dad's trying to get her in close with the king, if she gets married, but like the writing's on the wall maybe
Uh,
for her. So maybe
it,
that's why she's worried, because she's like, this is going to put us at odds
it's
someday.
it's a very complicated thing that she's got going on here because like her dad's trying to get her in the good graces of her best friend's father, which is awkward to begin with. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, she's just a nervous wreck through the whole episode, and I think we're going to see a lot of that pan out. I think Otto is going to be the mastermind behind all of this, and she's just the puppet.
Yep.
Is that the vibe you're getting?
Yeah. Yeah. She's going to be the reluctant puppet that like really tries, but has no choice.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, I don't want to speculate too much on the future. I really just want to like let it come forth. But like, there's a lot of just like very strong scenes that we've seen on the trailers, whether it's Daemon pointing his sword, which is looks at the Dragonstone like walkway down to the beach. But then there's scenes of her and him like standing together. So like they don't really let on much though in terms of like how it really all unfolds. So that's at least good, because it's like they all seem to be at times on good favor, other times like going to fight. Like, what's going to happen?
Yeah, I agree. I typically we make predictions on here. I'm going to try and stay away from the predictions because I think I'm going to nail some of them a little too on the head because of just some of the stuff that we've seen already and stuff that I've read. So yeah, I think that's a good plan. We'll let it go episode by episode.
Yeah.
Then I'll be like, oh yeah, I told you guys.
Yeah.
I predicted that in my head.
But they also is book material here that they can stick to very tightly. So
True.
Any guesses that we kind of make up about the future, we can just go read the book and probably just know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Too, so.
And the cool thing is like, I do want to kind of give props to the showrunners because the book is not written like these books. And I think we talked about this episode 0. It's written like a history style of the book. So it's just like the events, not from a point of view. So I think they translated it really well to the point of view style that the show is going for. So yeah, I don't know, dude. I'm freaking, if you can't tell already, I'm sold on the show. Like I wasn't when they announced it, but now I'm like fully on board.
They're hitting all the right notes that they need to hit. And my wife was like, wow, that was pretty good. I'm like, I agree.
Yeah.
Like, simple as that. Like, it's not bad by any means. So I would say you're just kind of hating to hate if you're disliking this. Because otherwise it's pretty on brand.
I agree. I have heard very little hate towards this series so far, even with the new episode being out and it being more people talking about it. There's very little hate, and I don't know what there is to hate. I didn't really see anything that I hated on too much in this first episode, if anything at all.
Cool. Well, I think we combed through it from start to finish, and I'm excited for next week. Sundays are back.
They are.
Sundays
finally
are back. Cool. Well, got anything else?
I got nothing else.
Park it right there. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Definitely like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Visit showboysmedia.com. We just rolled out an update to the website. It's very nice.
It looks great.
Got all kinds of stuff going on there, and we kicked off the D&D campaign that basically our stream team is kind of all involved in. So they're having a lot of fun over there.
I need to go watch that whole thing because I caught like the last hour.
That'll be up on YouTube here like tomorrow or Wednesday, but it's also video on demand on Twitch. So that'll be exciting as they move through there. And Peace Love Ames is already petitioning that they move it up to every 2 weeks instead of every 3 weeks. It went that well. So
Oh, I thought it was weekly.
no. Yeah.
Okay.
It's an intense. They went for 4 hours.
4 hour. I saw that. So
Man, I couldn't hang.
yeah.
And Peace Love Ames is excited for next week. Yeah, that's a good show. I'm happy.
Yeah.
We got some very top-notch content here. After there were some duds this summer. Some this year had some dud shows kind of like come out that were much more anticipated. So
Yeah.
this might take the cake.
I agree.
All right. Well, until next time, thank you again, everyone. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next Monday.
Yes. See you guys.
Peace.